Today, at his inauguration, President-elect Trump wasted no time in implementing his long-touted immigration plans. And the first one that he implemented as of today is the elimination of the CBP One app, otherwise known as the Migrant app. Now, today in this video, we are going to break down three things. One, we're going to look at what the CBP One app really was, the importance of it, the use, and how it functioned. Two, we're going to look at the implications of the elimination or cancellation of this app. And three, we're going to look at the policy changes and challenges that immigrants face under a new Trump administration. So, stay tuned. To the next level life hacks, where we take the next steps needed to grow towards our financial freedom and our success. Now, what was this CBP One app, otherwise known as the Migrant app? Now, it was initiated in early 2023 by the Biden administration as a means of streamlining the immigration process that was happening at the different borders. The CBP therefore could have an anticipated amount of persons that would be approaching the border each day. Therefore, they could immediately know how many persons need to be on hand in terms of staff and in terms of anticipating what types of applicants were approaching, so they would automatically know how each person was supposed to be processed. In general, it provided an organized pathway for asylum seekers. Now, yes, there were some hiccups beginning of the app's introduction because several persons complained that either they could not download the app, or there were bugs or glitches in the system, or they would reach to a certain point throughout the appointment setting process and then the app would cancel their application out of the system entirely. So there was some amount of frustration. But after its successful introduction, the amount of persons that would arrive at the border each day drastically reduced, because now persons realized that if you did not have an appointment, then you would be turned away. And as I mentioned before, the CBP agents would have an anticipated amount that they would be processing each day. Now, what is this amount? On a daily basis, there were slots for 1,450 appointments. If you did not get one of those 1,450 slots, then you would have to select another day for your appointment. So it was reasonably organized and streamlined. What it did as well is that you had much less persons who were struggling to reach the border, so you had much less cases of persons jeopardizing their life and attempting to cross the border illegally. What is the impact of the shutdown of this app on migrants? The shutdown was sudden and it was sweeping. Persons received notification alerts on their phones, like maybe 30 minutes before their appointment time, that their appointments had been cancelled and all future appointments had been cancelled, and therefore there was no longer a way for them to make an appointment in the system. It also left persons unknowing what their next steps should be, because it is not as if there was an announcement of what the alternate steps were. There was just that shutdown of this process. Now, you can imagine that persons that were at the border waiting for their appointment only received a notification on their phone that their appointment had been cancelled. Now, let's look at the following clip as to what happened at the border, but in specific, Ms. Tanoko, who at 12:25 got the notification that her 1 p.m. appointment was being cancelled. Now, I am also going to be putting on the screen right now just a segment of the nearly 300,000 immigrants that were waiting in Mexico to be processed to enter the United States. Now, these nearly 300,000 persons are not sure of their fate and not sure of what the next step will be as we move more into the executive orders or the decisions that are going to be made by the new administration. Now, another implication of the shutdown of the CBP One app is that there might be more illegal crossings into the United States. Now, certain arguments are that at least the CBP One app allow persons to be legally streamlined through a process to gain entry into the United States. What is being assumed now is that there is going to be an increase in the illegal crossings into the United States because persons are going to get more desperate now, not knowing what other measures are going to be put in place. They have already started their journey to the border and they are not going to be turning back. That's the assumption. So what you might have is more persons jeopardizing their lives trying to cross the border illegally because this route or this system that they used through the CBP One app is no longer available to them. Now, the other assumption is that this is only the start of the sweeping changes that are going to be taking effect. Now, when listening to the arguments for and against the decision to shut down the CBP One app, it underscores a broader ideological divide in the US immigration policy. The arguments for is that the app was an efficient solution to the chaotic border management that existed. However, with its elimination now, the argument again is that there will be more illegal crossings, more chaos at the border, and more uncertainty as to the amount of persons that would be approaching the border on a daily basis. However, comments from persons like Vice President J.D. Vance is that the app was a tool for illegal border crossings, so therefore its elimination was a must. So you see, there are arguments for and against, but at the end of the day, the app has been cancelled and there has been no next steps announced. Now, I tested it for myself because immediately after the inauguration speech, I went to the USCIS website, and when I tried to access any information regarding the CBP app, this is the notification that I saw on the USCIS website. And I'm going to place it here below so you can read it for yourself. Now, what are the next steps for migrants? My usual advice to you is to seek legal counsel and representation, especially if you had an appointment that was cancelled, because up to 900,000 persons were scheduled appointments within the last 2 years. Therefore, a significant amount of persons were being processed. And as I mentioned, 300,000 persons were waiting in Mexico for their appointments or to be processed to enter the United States. 1,450 persons were processed each day, so you will realize that the amount of persons now in limbo is a significant amount. If therefore you were one of the persons who had a scheduled interview which was cancelled, or you are now waiting in Mexico, or you know of anyone that was waiting in Mexico to be processed, I would advise that you seek legal counsel from an immigration attorney, or you look in the description box below for our consulting agency so that you can ask questions regarding what are the next steps for you. Also, keep up to date with any changes that might be happening in the immigration information, because to be forewarned is to be forearmed. All in all, this is a new era for border and immigration policies. They will be coming fast and sweeping as we progress more into the administration of President Donald Trump. Therefore, the more that you are up to date with information, the more prepared you can be, and you can pivot and know what next steps you need to take. Remember, there is more than one way that you can be documented and become a legal resident within the United States. So don't only stick to one avenue. There are many others that you can pursue legally. Now, as usual, my friends, if you know of anyone else that might benefit from this information, please feel free to share it with them. Also, 96% of persons that watch the content on this channel, you are not subscribed. So please, subscribe right now to the channel so that we can grow and we can reach to a wider cross-section of persons with our content. As usual, thank you for watching. I appreciate you being here, and see you in the next video.